This is a reading from Modern Saints by Anne Bull. Chapter 42. Father Miguel Pro. Servant of God Miguel Pro, S.J. Miguel Augustin Pro Juarez, born 1891, died 1927 in Mexico at the age of 36. There is more adventure, excitement, and danger in the life of the Mexican priest, Father Miguel Pro, than in any modern spy thrillers. His life of danger began when, still only a toddler, he managed to escape the watchful eye of his nursemaid and crawl out onto a window ledge 3 stories above a busy street. Here, his horrified mother found and rescued him. A final dangerous episode led to his death by firing squad at the age of 36. Miguel was born January 13th, 1891, at Guadalupe. His father, Miguel, was the senior engineer at the Concepcion del Oro mine. His mother, Josefa, was a good and a gentle influence on Miguel as he observed her charity to the mine workers. From childhood, laughter and high spirits were hallmarks of Miguel's personality. He enjoyed practical jokes, which he often played at the expense of his sisters. Once, while taking a stroll with his favorite sister, Concepcion, he darted over and knocked at the door of a house they were passing. When the man of the house came to the door, Miguel explained that his sister, and he indicated the horrified Concepcion, had noticed the beautiful statue of the Virgin in the man's window and wished to purchase it. Concepcion later told her parents that it was the gaudiest, most hideous statue she had ever seen. Luckily, it was a family treasure, and the man refused to part with it. Another time, Miguel attended a mission in a nearby town with some visiting Jesuits, friends of his family. Secretly, he dressed himself in the soutane belonging to one of the missionaries and went out on his own little preaching expedition to the neighboring ranchos. He was accepted as a genuine priest by the simple country folk, who loaded the appealing young padre with eggs, cigarettes, and fresh cheeses. Soon the real priests caught up with him, but as he had apparently done a good job of preaching, they did not expose him as a fake. Instead, they dragged him back to their room, where they relieved him of his hard-earned contributions. Miguel had his embarrassing moments. On one occasion, he was on the roof trying to catch his sister's escaped canary. As he leaned over the side to request help, a shower of cigarettes fell from his pocket into the startled face of his father. The excuse he managed to manufacture on his way down from the roof sounded weak to all who heard it. On another occasion, he mistakenly mailed to his mother a letter intended for his non-Catholic girlfriend. The letter intended for his mother was mailed to the señorita in question. Providentially, this error led to a breakup with the girl. The Pro family shared a warm and close-knit life. On many nights, they gathered for musical entertainment, and Miguel added to the festivities by playing his mandolin or guitar. Although the family was devoutly Catholic, for a time, Miguel remained away from the sacraments and became lukewarm toward his religion. Finally, after 2 of his sisters became nuns, he began to think about his vocation. More and more he felt drawn to the priesthood. At the age of 20, he decided to apply for admission to the Jesuits. His reputation as a jokester had preceded him, and the superiors wished to make certain that the young man could take a joke as well as play one. The first appointment he had with the rector found the man reading a newspaper. Miguel stood for a full half hour before the rector put down his paper long enough to suggest that Miguel return the next day, as he was quite busy at the time. The next day, the rector was busy writing again. Again, Miguel stood for a long time before being noticed. At the final interview, there was a whole group of young Jesuits in the courtyard, loudly complaining about all things wrong with the Society of Jesus. It dawned on Miguel that this was a test he successfully passed. He entered the Jesuit novitiate on August 10th, 1911. In 1910, a revolution had begun in Mexico. By 1914, the fighting was too close for comfort, and the rector of the seminary prepared for the worst. He packed and hid or buried the best possessions of the novitiate and bought street clothes for the members of the community. On August 15th, they began leaving in small groups. Miguel was dressed as a peasant, and he attended his friends so well that no one suspected he was not their servant. By foot and train, they made their way to Laredo, Texas. From Texas to California, through Nicaragua and Spain to Belgium, the young seminarian traveled. At each place he stopped and worked as a teacher and assistant, as well as continuing his studies. In Belgium, he trained as a priest for the workers. Miguel had worked with his father as a manager at the mines and was deeply interested in the labor issues. Miguel's sense of humor remained unchanged by the Jesuit training, but he did learn to accept rebukes with humility. He began to control his impetuousness, and his love of prayer made him stand out even in a Jesuit community. Miguel suffered from a severe stomach ailment, which he successfully concealed for some time by making a joke whenever the pain came. The joke gave him an excuse to hold his stomach. Finally, this was noticed, and he underwent a series of operations to correct the condition. Miguel was ordained in Belgium on August 31st, 1925. His only sadness about the day was that none of his family members could be there with him. When Father Miguel's health did not improve, his Belgian superiors decided to send him back to Mexico. It is probable that they did not realize how severe the persecution had become. For his part, Father Miguel believed that it was his mission to spend the rest of his life in bringing Christ to his countrymen, without counting the cost or worrying about the danger. He arrived back in Mexico in 1926 and went to Mexico City. Within 23 days of his arrival, an order suppressing all public worship was issued. Any priest the police came across was thus subject to arrest and prosecution. Because he was unknown as a priest, Father Miguel was kept busy ministering secretly to the Catholics in several parishes. He wrote to a friend, "I have what I call Eucharistic stations, where, fooling the police, I go each day to give communion." Two of Father Miguel Pro's brothers were active supporters of the Religious Defense League. On one occasion, Father Miguel and his brothers and some friends were picked up and thrown into jail. The jailer laughingly suggested the group have mass, as one of them was a presbítero, priest. Father Miguel wrote a friend regarding the incident. "We all looked one another over from head to toe, wondering who might be the unfortunate priest among us. The jailer said he's a Miguel Augustin." Father Pro continued his account. "Hold on," I cried loudly. "This Miguel Augustin is I, but I'm going to say Mass just like I'm going to sleep on a mattress tonight." The prisoner slept on the floor, and this presbítero, before the name, that's my family name, Pro, which someone had confused with PBRO, the abbreviation for priest. This escape was close, but no closer than many other escapes which Father Pro made. As in the jail incident, he sometimes used his wits to escape from tight situations. Often, though, it was the sturdy faith of the Mexican Catholics who kept his secret. At last, an order was issued for his arrest, and he went into strict hiding. To continue his secret ministry, Father Pro adopted a number of disguises. He dressed as a mechanic to give a talk to a group of chauffeurs, or wearing secular clothes, he would calmly walk past a policeman to give a message about Mass to someone less than a block from the official. During one narrow escape, he was barely 50 yards ahead of his pursuers. Spying a passing girl, he linked arms with her and whispered, "Help me, I'm a priest." Speedily, the girl reacted perfectly, and the police search group passed by the lovers without a backward glance. To bring Christ to his countrymen, Father Pro raced back and forth across the capital on a bicycle to give communion, baptize, perform marriages, hear confessions, and administer the last rites. In addition to these spiritual tasks, he also took many risks to help the poor of the city, collecting and distributing food and other supplies. On November 13, 1927, a bomb was thrown from an old Essex at another car, that of Calles, the newly elected president. The Essex had at one time belonged to Miguel's brother Umberto. Although all the Pro brothers had solid alibis, they were considered marked men. They were forced into strict hiding, but within 4 days were betrayed unwittingly to the police by a young boy who feared for his mother's life. The order for the execution of the 3 Pro brothers was given. They were to be shot, along with 2 other prisoners. On the day of the execution, the sweater-clad Father Miguel was first to be led out of the prison. No due process had been accorded him. He had not received a trial. For the attempt on the life of the president, Miguel had a solid alibi. He was, however, guilty in the eyes of Calles of a worse crime, being a Catholic priest. The prisoners had not been told of their death sentence, although they seemed to have sensed it. A few days before the arrest, while serving Mass at a convent, Miguel had told the Mother Superior, "I offered my life for the saving of Mexico some time ago, sister, and this morning at Mass I felt that he had accepted it." During his time in jail, Father Pro prepared his brothers and the other prisoners and counseled his jailer. As one of the policemen who had helped to hunt him down was leading him out to his execution, the man turned and with tears in his eyes begged Father Pro to forgive him for leading him to his death. Miguel put his arm about the shoulders of the shaking man and told him, You have not only my forgiveness, but my thanks. He also softly told the members of the firing squad, May God forgive you all. Asked if he had a last request, Miguel asked to be allowed to pray. He knelt in front of the bullet-pocked walls and fervently prayed for 2 minutes. After his prayer, he stood with his arms outstretched in the form of a cross, rejecting the offered blindfold. In a firm, clear voice, he said, Viva Cristo Rey! Long live Christ the King. A lawyer and Miguel's sister Anna arrived with an amparo, that is, a stay of execution, but shots from the other side of the locked gate announced that they were too late. Although they had been there several minutes and several people had taken up the cry, the guards refused to open the gates. A phone call from the Argentine ambassador did save the life of Roberto, Miguel's youngest brother, who was later exiled to the United States. Contrary to Caius's expectations, Father Pro met his martyrdom calmly and heroically. The firing squad did not kill the courageous priest. Though mortally wounded, he still breathed. General Cruz walked over to him, placed a revolver to his head, and fired into his brain. The fanatic General Caius had seen the execution as an occasion for celebration of the cowardice of the Mexican Catholics. He had invited the press, photographers, and many others to attend, and for this reason we have a good photographic record of the martyrdom. But the deaths were so heroic that the photos produced the opposite effect. Possession of them quickly became a crime. That night, the bodies of Miguel and Humberto lay in their father's house. One of their sisters, overcome with emotion, was weeping bitterly. Her father asked, Is this how you behave in the presence of a saint? All night, people streamed past the caskets. The next day, over 500 cars were in the funeral procession, and thousands thronged the streets to throw flowers on the caskets. Although Caius had forbidden any public demonstration, the people acted in open defiance, knowing that there were not enough jails in Mexico to hold all who wished to pay homage to the saintly priest and his martyred brother. Before his death, Father Pro had told a friend, If I am ever caught, be prepared to ask me for things where I am in heaven. He also jokingly promised to cheer up any long-faced saints he found in heaven by performing a gay Mexican hat dance. Not only his friend, but many of his countrymen believed that Father Miguel would answer their prayers. An old blind woman in the crowd who came to touch his body at the funeral left with her sight restored. 3 others testified to his aid within a week of his death. Early in the 1930s, the cause for Father Pro's beatification was introduced in Rome. Above, Father Miguel Agustin Pro, S.J., who offered his life to God to save Mexico. Opposite upper, the young Jesuit Miguel Pro in his study. Opposite lower, the Pro family. Standing left to right are Edmundo, Miguel, and Ana Maria, Anita. Seated left to right are Maria de la Concepcion, later to become a nun, Roberto, Senora Pro, Humberto, Senor Pro, and Maria de la Luz, later to become a nun. The last year of Father Pro's life was spent carrying out his priestly duties in great danger and religious persecution as he dodged the Mexican police during the Revolution. Father Pro, in one of his many disguises. Upper, flashlight photo of Father Pro taken in prison at 1 a.m. on the day of his execution, his crime being a Catholic priest. Lower, Father Pro is led to his execution. Father Pro's last request is honored, a moment of prayer before the execution. Refusing the blindfold and stretching out his arms in the shape of a cross, Father Pro, speaking his last words, Viva Cristo Rey, long live Christ the King. Opposite. To make sure of his death, a soldier fired a bullet at close range into the priest's head. Above, Father Miguel Pro in death. Thousands thronged to the funeral of this saintly priest and his brother Umberto, who was executed with him. Upon seeing the bodies of his two dead sons, their father tenderly kissed their faces. To his daughter, Anna Maria, he said, "There is nothing to weep over, my child." He blessed God that he was the father of two martyrs.